I'm Shannon Martin. Tonight, students speak out against the Russian troops' invasion of Ukraine.
The next generation won't stay silent, and that we will continue to fight for what is right.
How students with close connections to the war-torn country are showing support.
That's going to be worse, a lot worse.
Roller coaster gas prices and the impact on delivery drivers, what one company is doing to help, but it'll cost customers more. And a Canadian cross-country skier captures his 16th Paralympic gold medal, that historic win capping off an incredible career.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Thanks for joining us. We'll get to those stories in a moment. But first to something we've been following closely all day. 5 people have died after a crash along the 401 near Belleville. Details are still coming into the newsroom. Lorenda Redekop has more on what we know so far.
All of the 7 people killed or injured were traveling in the same vehicle. A van headed west. At around 3:45 a.m., it collided with another vehicle, a transport truck that was traveling in the same direction. The driver of that vehicle escaped unharmed.
I can confirm now that there were 5 fatalities in the passenger van, and 2 additional passengers also that were traveling in the passenger van were transported to the hospital with serious injuries.
The 2 people who were injured remain in hospital. She couldn't say much about the victims other than to say that they were not from the area where that crash happened. This led to police shutting down that section of the 401 westbound for 10 hours as police investigated and did traffic scene reconstruction to try to figure out what caused the crash. Police say it's too early to tell, but no doubt one of the factors they'll be looking at is the weather at the time. According to Environment Canada, there was light snow and winds were gusting up to 35 kilometers an hour. So far, police are not releasing any details about the 5 people who died, saying they're still contacting their next of kin, and they do expect they'll be able to say more early next week. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
In other news tonight, another big show of support for Ukraine, this one coming from university students in Toronto. They're joining calls for a no-fly zone over that country. Talia Ricci was at a rally and has our story.
We are here to show Putin that the next generation won't stay silent.
For many GTA students with loved ones in Ukraine, right now it feels like there's a bigger priority than schoolwork.
We decided to organize a rally to really allow youth that doesn't usually partake in Ukrainian events to stand up and really talk about what's happening back home.
Because we are the future and we'll be telling this story when we have children and our kids have kids. We have the power to change a lot.
For young Ukrainians here, among the many fundraisers and events are also calls for action.
Slava Ukraini!
Several universities have released statements condemning the violence in Ukraine and sharing how students can access various types of support, like mental health resources. But students at Saturday's rally say more needs to be done.
Providing extensions for different assignments, providing same-day or next-day counseling services, and grants for students that are currently supporting their families. These are just some of the things that universities can do right now.
On Sunday, many of the student groups will also be attending another rally organized by the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. When it feels like their loved ones are a world away, some say coming together like this brings much needed hope.
Seeing what's happening to them, it causes a constant stress and fear to me because I can't control anything that's happening. Really, the only time that I feel okay in the past 3 weeks is at rallies, so I'm really grateful for this community.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Meantime, on the ground in Ukraine, Russian forces continue to heavily bombard civilian and military targets almost without any let-up. Plus, it appears Russia is getting ready for a full-scale assault on the capital. Our Chris Brown is in Lviv with the latest.
Russian aircraft and missiles rained down destruction on more Ukrainian targets Saturday. This was an oil storage facility near the capital, Kyiv. With Russian troops advancing, the immediate priority in suburbs such as Irpin is to get civilians out. Though despite the danger, not everyone wants to leave.
They want to stay there. They neighborhood, in their houses. But we are trying to tell them that you guys have to leave everything and run.
While there's no real front line in Russia's war with Ukraine, the city of Mariupol is surrounded and desperate, with perhaps several 100,000 people surviving by drinking rainwater. City officials report conditions in the local hospital are catastrophic. Buses filled with food and supplies are ready to enter, but for the last week the route has been blocked by Russian shelling. Other Ukrainian communities such as Bashiv have simply ceased to exist, wiped off the map by relentless Russian bombardment. Ukraine's military, though, is taking heart that its Turkish-made Bayraktar drones are still flying and picking off Russian targets with devastating accuracy, says President Vladimir Zelensky. Russian troop losses are enormous, he said, the biggest blow to its army in decades.
While Ukrainian estimates are much higher, Britain and the U.S. believe that Russia has suffered between 4,000 to 5,000 combat deaths. And for the first time, Zelensky has put a number on Ukraine's losses. 1,300 soldiers killed since Russia invaded 17 days ago. Chris Brown, CBC News, Lviv, Ukraine.
Closer to home, prices at the pump continue to be a roller coaster. Now Uber says it's adding a fee to help out its drivers. That cost will fall directly on customers. Delia Ashry has reaction.
People are lining up and filling up their cars at the pump this weekend. Gas prices dropped overnight on Friday by 16 cents a liter, sitting today at almost $1.70 across the GTA. Still, not much of a relief.
I think that it's probably going to keep going up, and that's no good.
It's great that they're dropping a bit, but they're still going to go back up tomorrow, so it's still going to hurt the wallet.
They haven't dropped enough.
Prices reached a record high on Wednesday at $1.90, and with Russia being the third largest producer and exporter of oil in the world, and as the fighting rages on in Ukraine, this expert said on Wednesday prices are expected to remain high.
I think we're still going to see oil remain well above 100, possibly going at some points, depending on circumstances, right up to 135, maybe even $150 a barrel.
To offset the cost of high gas prices, starting on Wednesday, Uber will be adding a surcharge fee for riders by 50 cents. Now, if you're anything like me and you like to order food in just a few days, an order like this will go up by 35 cents as well.
The gas price is too high nowadays.
Amit Kumar says he'll avoid 4 wheels altogether and maybe just stick to 2 for the meantime.
No, I don't have any plan to doing by car because of higher gas prices as well. So I prefer bicycle.
Uber says 100% of the surcharge will go directly to the drivers.
Is that good enough, or did you want it to be more?
No, that's okay.
Most people say they're in support of the drivers and agree with Uber's move.
That's great for them. They're finally doing something to help the drivers.
Realistically going to go back into that gas tank, and he's going to be spending more money than he's actually making, and at that point, it's not worth it. And at that point, maybe you should just go get your own food.
Surcharges are expected to last 60 days. But like everyone else, Uber says it will be watching gas prices closely as well, and fees could very likely change. Dalia Ashry, CBC News, Toronto.
Climate justice now. Climate justice now.
In Toronto, dozens of protesters taking to the streets at several rallies, this one outside the office of Canada's Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland. The goal to bring awareness to climate justice. The rally was organized by the group Toronto 350.
It's up to the government to say, okay, that's it, we're done. No more subsidies, no more fossil fuels, we're going to phase them out, and we're going to do it in a just way. My motivation is for my 2 grandchildren because I want them to be able to grow up in a livable planet.
Really horrible situation, what's happening in Ukraine. It's really important to push for peace in this time. This conflict has really highlighted our reliance on oil and gas, so that is an important thing, I think, for Canadians to pay attention to.
Demonstrators say they're celebrating a just transition away from fossil fuels and Ottawa's pledge to help workers while moving towards a goal of becoming net zero by 2050. Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown is expected to make a big announcement tomorrow on Wednesday. Brown told reporters he was close to making a decision on whether to seek the leadership of the federal Conservative Party. Candidates must register by April 19th. A new leader for the party will be chosen later this year in September. A reminder before you head to bed tonight, clocks spring forward by 1 hour. Daylight savings time begins at 2 in the morning, making sunrise and sunset each 1 hour later. So do you love it or do you hate it? Mike Evans hit the streets to see how Windsorites feel about the change.
Daylight savings time is very annoying, I find that my schedule's all messed up and I just feel like I don't know time anymore. The concept of time is just gone for me. I always feel like I'm waking up late or I'm not waking up early enough.
For me, it doesn't really matter. I would actually be okay either way.
How would you feel if Ontario just did away with it one day?
I would be okay with it. It would be fine, I guess. Some people have a hard time adjusting sometimes, so I see the reason why they are looking to change it, but I'm okay either way.
I'm a little indifferent towards daylight savings time, but the history of it is kind of conflicted between people living in the city and people living in the county, from what I've read in history.
Has it ever messed up your schedule or your life in any way when we had to spring ahead or fall back?
Other than trying to figure out how to work the clock in my car, no, not really.
I feel like it's a waste of time, pretty literally. It kind of messes with the sleep schedule. Everybody gets a little bit discombobulated, right? We definitely don't need it in our lives. I don't think it's doing us any good.
Has it ever messed you up in the past, like your schedule or anything? Have you ever been late because of it?
Definitely not late. I try and be as punctual as possible, but definitely the sleep schedule is the worst part of it, right? Growing up an athlete and stuff like that, your sleep is definitely very important to you, right? So as soon as you lose an hour or gain an extra hour, you're going to bed a little bit later. It's a little bit tough, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. Here's a live look from downtown Toronto tonight. The city has declared an extreme cold weather alert. That means there are forewarning services for those who need a safe place to escape the cold. Well, let's bring in Sophia now with our first look at the forecast. Have you gotten the kids ready? I know you got little ones at home. Are you ready for this time change?
You posted some great tips earlier. This is when we young moms come out in warrior mode. Anything for an extra hour of sleep or to keep a little bit of normalcy.
You got to protect those hours, right?
We can't do away with it, though, because we Canadians need something to gripe about when it comes to the weather. Hey, it's nice talking about springing forward, though. Winter is not ready to say goodbye, though. It's in one last hurrah. You mentioned the cold. Let's talk a little bit about all the good things to come, like the fact we'll have more daylight to cook dinner in the next 24 to 36 hours. Until then, though, you'll have a little bit more snow and cold to contend with, below seasonal conditions, as you mentioned, and snow squalls that are actually impacting quite a large portion of the southern Great Lakes Basin. We're talking whiteout conditions and really dicey travel yet again for another weekend here together. Below seasonal to quite the extent, feeling like minus 20 right across the board for many of you with these snow squalls. Whiteout conditions in effect for many of the major driving areas. 401, the 400 into the next couple hours could be dicey as well. These bands off the Georgian and the Huron shores are locking in all the way to the Niagara region with snow and blowing snow. Now coming up, we'll talk about how conditions will be perfect for the big Sunday hockey game outdoors in Hamilton and how that will be the start of a warm-up for a really nice March break long-range forecast. Shannon.
Oh, I like the sounds of that. Thanks, Sophia.
You're welcome.
Welcome back. A diplomatic solution to Russia's invasion of Ukraine remains elusive despite military support for Ukraine and sanctions against Russia. The fighting rages on. The people of Ukraine caught in the violence. Chris Reyes takes a closer look for us.
Another day, another standoff between Russia and the West. Meeting with his top officials, President Putin gave the green light to bring volunteer soldiers from the Middle East. His defense minister saying 16,000 have applied to fight for Russia, asking for no money. Putin replies, if you see people who want voluntarily without payment to come and help people living in Donbass, we need to meet their efforts and help them to reach the combat zone. In the U.S., soldiers from this army base in Georgia have been deployed to help NATO.
So the orders that we were given for them are for a 6-month deployment, and that's what we know now. Could it go longer? Yes.
In parts of Europe, protests continue demanding an end to the war. In Florence, Italy, this protester says such an aggression in Europe is inconceivable at this time. It's necessary to be here and make our voices heard. In Munich, Germany, this protester says it's important to take the streets every day, that the war must be condemned in the strongest possible terms. In his latest public statements, President Zelensky said the support he's getting is still not enough, even after more meetings with European and Israeli leaders. He welcomed an offer from Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett to mediate talks between Ukraine and Russia in Jerusalem. Zelensky said, "I believe the involvement of our Western partners is not sufficient, that security guarantees should be offered by other leaders." A desperate plea that gets louder with each week. The war rages on. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Meantime, Hong Kong recorded more than 27,000 new COVID cases today as the city's devastating fifth wave continues. The number is in line with the 7-day average and down from the highest daily figures last week. Still, Chief Executive Carrie Lam is warning the wave may not have yet peaked. A makeshift COVID hospital is under rapid construction. COVID has killed more than 3,000 people there. Fans of the Korean superstars BTS didn't have to fly across the globe to see them live today. A special concert was broadcast right around the world. Fans here tell us just how excited they were to see their favorite band on the big screen.
It's amazing that we, as a global audience, can watch them all together, see them back in Seoul performing. We're both big fans of BTS. We heard that there was an opportunity like this. We just wanted to try it out.
Oh, I'm excited to see their new outfits for their performances, and they're in their home country.
The concert is called Permission to Dance. Cineplex says they sold 12,000 tickets for the one-day event in the first hour alone. St. Paddy's Day may be a few days away yet, but the Irish spirit is in full swing.
For us as musicians, it's been a long 2 years of very few gigs, and it's lovely to kind of get back and play for people because that's what we love to do.
We're excited. Everyone's excited to get out and finally be with everybody. And
just to be out and like seeing people and like having fun, getting some drinks, like outside. It's gonna be awesome.
Yes, it feels good. Traditional Irish music taking over several pubs downtown Toronto. Just a taste of what's to come on the 17th. It is the first time in a couple of years many are getting a chance to raise a pint of Guinness together in person. Sophia's back, and you're talking about the big game tomorrow, the outdoor hockey game, the NHL Classic. So, you know, I don't know, you said perfect conditions, but I still feel like I'd be layering up for that.
Yeah, definitely a bundle up kind of day. The luck of the Irish will be with us when it comes to the weather long range, though. But for the big hockey game, not a lot of sunshine, perfect falling snow, so really nice chilly hockey weather. It starts off with a bit of a renaissance of winter. Big snow squalls off the Georgian and the Huron shores. We're still talking about those dicey travel conditions for the next 4 or 5 hours. Then the southerly flow picks up, and you'll have a little bit of an uptick in temperatures for the hockey game tomorrow. Bit below seasonal, will feel like -5, -7, but perfectly falling snow, hopefully for a Leafs win. You'll get another centimeter or 2 of snow out of the whole package. When it's all said and done, though, the big change is afoot. You will see temperatures growing progressively in the days to come this upcoming work week for a stellar March break forecast, courtesy of a really strong upper level jet that will be propelling in southern warmth. I like the sounds of what is going to be May-like temperatures. It begins with the Clipper system that will bring a little bit of snow for Sunday. Throughout much of central Ontario, Monday, a boundary sets up. You'll see a little bit of rain to the south, a little bit of snow into central portions of Ontario. Then watch the temperatures grow progressively. We hold on to the warmth Tuesday, double digits, mid-teens for Wednesday, and even warmer for Thursday. It's the one that takes the cake, especially in the south, with the temperatures, Shannon, that are about 3 times more than the seasonal value. Pretty good. Now, if only our children could sleep out of all of it. Here's my annual PSA as I leave you all.
Yes, exactly. Set the clocks, drink the coffee in the morning.
And enjoy the sunshine.
Okay.
It'll be plentiful.
Thanks, Sophia. Well, that is our show for tonight. Thanks for